So I want to give you some examples on how repetition, experience and practice and correct technique will always be your best teacher. Because it's funny, like I've been teaching for so long where when I show some of my older work, people have actually said, Jerry, I'm more inspired by your older work than your newer because it gives me hope. The thing is that we all start somewhere. We all have a point in our lives where we want to be a photographer, as in if you've chosen this industry, and you're not that great. Well, we all suck when we start, right? That's okay. I'm saying that everyone sucks when they start pretty much any new skill. But I want to show you a handful of examples of photographs that I've taken early in my career and then how they've become better and some little nuances. And of course, we'll get into nitty-gritty sort of after the fact as well. But you know, this photograph, this is an engagement session. I was inspired by the movie The Notebook, that famous scene in where the couple are kissing in the rain. But I wanted to do some shots where they were kissing in the rain and then maybe backlight the rain. Now I believe I'm one of, if not the first person to really popularize the backlit with rain in our industry, having done this decades ago. But in this particular case, what I've done here is I've got the beautiful emotional hands. This was basically a hose, so we put a hose on them because you can't make it rain on cue unless you put them with a hose. So it was cold water. We had a flash from behind. We backlit them with flash. We had a bit of video light, some tungsten light hitting them in the front, and then we've got this photograph. Now, how has this shot evolved over the years? That's the question. Well, I was actually at a wedding in Sydney, in New South Wales, the state where Sydney is in Australia. And I walked outside in that thin, crisp country air and there was bugs and dust particles hitting my face. And I'm like, if I backlight these little suckers with flash, it's going to look like rain. Then the bride and groom were also obsessed with the saxophone player. And I thought, wait a second, if they can actually come with the saxophone player outside, they love the saxophone. If I backlight them with flash, I might get something like this. And again, you would think that's rain, but that is in fact bugs and dust particles. So it's really, really cool. So again, a big difference between that previous one and this one. Am I saying this is better? Maybe it's probably more meaningful and adds that little extra element. Then I was walking past a street vendor and they had these bubble guns, like, you know, the guns with the blow bubbles. So I bought them and I got the bridal party to actually blow the bubbles, and then all of a sudden we get this one. So then now you start to think, well, wait a second, backlighting with flash in any kind of atmosphere, it could be dust, it could be bubbles, it could be rain. We would get a shot like this, and of course the light bounces between them, and then we can get shots like this. So this is the one that I popularized quite a long time ago, and again, please forgive me if someone else was the first, but I had introduced this kind of a shot into the industry, and now we see it so much, it's almost bastardized this quite cool shot, but it's become somewhat of a cliche. Now, it is popular because it's a cool effect and brides and grooms love it. It just depends on what you want to do. And how did I do this? Just for the sake of the argument, my wife, Melissa, she was about 6 feet behind the couple. The flash was on a monopod, so she brings it up. She brings it right behind the groom, points the flash directly to the couple. It bounces between their faces, and that's why they get that beautiful glow. And the cool thing is, you know it's behind the groom because you can see some rain droplets above the bride. So it's actually coming past here. And of course it was raining, and there's no cloning involved there. That was basically the shot that we did. But again, do you sort of see where we've come from? We've come from that shot at the engagement session and come to this. And even to the point where another couple wanted this kind of a shot. I'm like, well, it has to rain. And it has to be dark. There's two things that have to happen. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So anyway, we did this. It didn't rain on the wedding day. The day after session, it did rain, but it was during the day. How am I going to get this look? So what I did was I put them at the edge or the fringe of a walkway with overhanging trees. So I exposed for the trees. So can you imagine? So we're out in the open shade. There's clouds everywhere. It's starting to rain. We've got trees here. I put them at the front of those trees. Now the trees are quite dark because there's not much detail there at all because they're so dense. There's no little highlights through those trees, no specular highlights. So I isolate that particular tree and got the exposure that it looks black. There's my exposure. Then I backlight them with flash. A little bit of ambience was hitting them, so I had isolated the trees to make it black, had enough light hitting the front of them, then with a flash between them, and then we get something like this. Now, would I have done this level of sophistication if I hadn't practiced that over those years? Probably not. The fact is that you'll get approached with different things and different concepts in your career where you just know, well, I know what's going to happen here. I've been through that before, I've made that mistake, or I was inexperienced, I simply just know what to do now. Make sense? This next shot was done in film, medium format. This was probably done, man, I'd say 20 odd years ago now. So I had loved the idea of actually photographing with candles. So I got candles, I brought them all in front of them, and then we tilted their faces towards candles. So a little side note tip here is that, so when you're photographing with candlelight, the candlelight's down low. So let's say, for example, this table had candles on it. If the candlelight or light source is low, that means it'll cause ugly shadows in the upper cheekbones. So therefore, if any kind of light source is lower, that could be a reflection off a tile for all I know, you need to get the couple lean towards the light source to actually somewhat get rid of those shadows in the upper cheekbones, which we've sort of pretty much done. It's not as bad. It's more forgiving on a guy than a girl, but you can see how I've given her a little tilt of the face and sort of chin forward and down to make that more parallel. So there we've done that shot. That was 20 odd years ago. I'd say maybe 15 years ago, this groom came up to me and said, I want a dramatic, really cool portrait of me and the boys. My first instinct was, I just looked at them, I just saw a bunch of mafia boys. Like, they just looked like they were from the movie Goodfellas and Scarface and all those kind of movies. So straight away I was thinking very dramatic. Then I thought, okay, let me look around and see what kind of dramatic lighting there is. And all I had at that point was just candlelight, little tea candles. So I gathered about 30 tea candles and put them on a table, and then I photographed the guys. And when we talk about being proactive in photography, I had directed every single expression in this next photograph, which sounds a bit silly, but so you can create a beautiful triangular composition, but unless you get emotion out of people, why would they be sitting in front of candles? So first of all, cut the light source out, otherwise it's too obvious. Then you've got to start looking at, well, what story can I tell? So my first instinct was, all right, well, you look here, you look that way. The very, very first thing that I thought in my brain was, get them to do this. Didn't second guess it. And then we got this shot. Now, people think this is done in Photoshop. It's not. In fact, the reason why you can't see much detail above the heads of the first row and the three guys on top is because there's no light hitting their bodies. So the candlelight was here and hitting their faces, and we've got this sort of beautiful expressions in this great triangular composition. Then finally, I was approached with a wedding I shot well over 5 years ago. I can't remember now. It's been a long time. In fact, probably more, 7 or 8 years ago. And this was a wedding in New York. And this is one of those handful of weddings that I said that was quite lavish that I've done in my career. It was at Cipriani in New York, in case you've been there, if you're playing along at home. And so this photograph, it took a while to produce. So let me explain. I photographed the story. We had a beautiful story told. The album was done. The end of the night happened. And we're saying goodbye, and I saw this sort of opportunity uncover itself in front of me, and it was like, wouldn't it be cool to have the bride and groom sharing a beautiful moment with a disheveled background? In other words, a metaphor of they've just had an incredible party, now it's really them on their own. That's their journey, right? That's their time. Had this idea in my head. They said, Jerry, we love you, we had a great day, but like, we're done with with the photographs. We want to go to our after party next door. And I said, guys, you don't understand. This photograph's going to be amazing. Just trust me. Let's do it together. Try to convince them. Nothing worked. I said, I'll tell you what. We're going to sit here. You have your after party. If we are here by the time you get back, you promise me that you'll give me 5 minutes. I was doing them the favor, but they didn't realize that at this point. Sure enough, Melissa, my former assistant, Sally, we were there sitting there, and they were giving me evil looks the whole time. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, and I'm like, no, I've got an idea in my head, and I can't move here until we're done. Finally, they come back for the after party because they had to go through where we were sitting to go to the bridal room to get their clothes and other personal things. And I said, hey, we're here, you promised me, and we did this photograph. And then this happened. one of my favourite photographs of my career. It wouldn't have happened unless I was patient, unless I knew the big picture, unless I knew how valuable, important and meaningful this image will be. And by the way, they happened to order a beautiful big double-page spread enlargement in their album and a wall art print, and that was a couple of grand. So if not for the love, guys, for the money. Like I'm saying to you, it wasn't about the money. I just wanted to produce something because I could, and I wanted to contribute to their beautiful story. But did it make a difference financially? Well, yeah. Can't it be for both? Of course it can. Now let's combine the look of the guys smoking their cigars around and then combine this look, and then we can get that shot. So what this segment is all about, guys, is that just know that with repetition, experience and practice, and practicing good technique, that you will get better and better, and you will be more refined, and then you'll use your experience of those shoots that you've done before to combine them together in some look that you would have never dreamt of at the start of your career. Although simplicity, it is quite simple, you'll just know that like you need to just run those miles and get that wisdom and that street smart under your belt. Let's look at another example. Now, of course, we have off-camera flash that can do this kind of look very, very easily. But in the days where there was no off-camera flash, there was a long sync cord, and then you would have to pop a flash from behind. This was done with Video Lite, and this was done many, many years ago. So now I've got off-camera flash, and I can again put that flash behind them, use the idea of Christmas lights, and I stumble across this amazing array of Christmas lights. I think this was like in New South Wales in Australia. There was some exhibit and they had these beautiful repeating Christmas lights. I was at a workshop showing this technique to my students, and I thought, how cool would it be to actually do something like this? So again, I put the flash 6 feet behind the groom, bounce between them. I expose for the ambience first, and then I add my flash and I get the shot. So again, do you see how this kind of shot has been improved and perfected? And I'm not saying perfected as in it's perfect, as in it's flawless. I'm saying I'm just getting better the more times I do it. Then I, as a Nikon ambassador, I was very proud that probably one of the highlights of my career was being asked to photograph the campaign for the wedding and the fashion industry for the D850. Sort of a landmark camera for Nikon, high megapixel, 45 megapixel, whatever it is. And I shot this photograph. I had used inspiration from this to come up with this, but do you see how there's more of a glow on her, and I'm shooting almost over the shoulder of the groom, so I've got light protruding in, having that beautiful softness of light, turning her bust towards the light, so I get a tickle of light on her bust, and then I actually manufacture the Christmas lights, as in I bring them on set to do it. And then at one point I sort of made them laugh. The light reflected off him, she was further back, so then it's a bit more about her. It's tack sharp on her eye, but it's a different technique, and we had a smoke in a can, and all of a sudden we get these shots. So guys, this segment is really to show to you and prove to you that yes, repetition, experience and practice in fact will be your best teacher. Never forego the importance of actually understanding and recreating what maybe you'll be doing on a wedding day or at a portrait session, saying, all right, well, what do I do now? Like, I literally, right now where I'm teaching, next door at my place, I have a mannequin, and it's female, skin tone of course, and if I'm photographing a complex situation, let's say when the girl or guy, whatever, is getting hair and makeup done or wardrobe, I will be practicing my lighting on this mannequin, so I know that when the model's on set, I'm done. Like, the hair light's done, the main light, fill light, strobe, whatever I'm using, or I simply want to practice a technique that I haven't really done before, I will get my mannequin out. They're not going to say a word to me. They'll literally be my perfect mannequin the whole day and a model for me the whole day, and that's it. Life is good. So remember, this will make you more confident. The more you prepare, the more experience you have, the more street smart that you have when you're there approached with something. Oh my God, I know this, I've got this, I've done this before. Life is good. You start to enjoy it. You get better shots. You show the couple, they're all excited, and it's a vicious cycle. So just know that you have to shoot a lot to get to the point where this is either infinitely better or different than perhaps the first time I tried it. So enjoy the ride, my friends. Please just understand it's not about always the result. The process will always be more fruitful.